Today, I'm gonna explain a 2019 sci-fi movie called Lifelike. The movie starts with a newly married couple named Sophie and James. They both are very happy with their married life, and it looks like they're moving to a new apartment, bringing an old couch. James has been working on the trust fund run by his father, who is a very rich businessman. One day, he receives a call from his family telling him that his father has died. Automatically, he inherits his father's business and becomes CEO of his father's company. James and Sophie decide to move away from the city into a suburban mansion. Day by day, they start their new life in the mansion. They have a lot of maids to take care of their household chores, so Sophie doesn't work and spends most of her time at home. Unfortunately, she is not used to this luxurious life, like the maids who serve her all the time, even though her maids have worked very well. She feels that she only wants to live alone with James in the mansion. Firmly, she chooses to fire all the maids by giving them layoffs. James, who initially knows about this, is very disappointed with Sophie. He says that they need some maids to take care of their big mansion. But in the end, he gets what Sophie wants and they decide to make love in the bed. At some point, James, who is working very hard, is called by his wife in the middle of a meeting. Sophie asks him to help start the lawnmower in their yard. James ends up fixing the engine at night. Every day, Sophie is still confused about her new job. She starts complaining to James, although she had fired all the maids in her house. As a final point, they meet Julian, a man who sells artificially intelligent robots to be used as domestic servants. At first, James wants to rent a beautiful robot, but Sophie doesn't agree because she wants to be the only woman in their house. Finally, they agree to choose a male robot, named Henry, who dutifully carries out their commands around the house. In the beginning, everything goes normally. Henry as a robot prepares breakfast for them every morning, and mows the grass in their yard as ordered by James and Sophie. At one time, Henry is cleaning Sophie's room and accidentally sees her wearing clothes. Sophie is very surprised by his presence and asks him to get out. She keeps complaining to James about Henry's action, until one day, their relationship is getting tense. Sophie often feels lonely because James is always busy at work. As a result, she tries to spend more time with Henry. From now on, she starts to have feelings for him. She tells him to read a book about human feelings and emotions. Therefore, Henry begins to develop emotions and have dreams due to the robot's intelligence system, which will adapt to the things he faces. One evening, Sophie wakes up from her bed and hears something from outside the house. She finds Henry sleeping outside stark naked and somewhat disoriented, saying that he dreams of being a human. The next day, they go straight to Julian and ask about Henry's strangeness last night. Julian says that it could happen because they overdeveloped Henry's emotions, such as often doing human things with him. When they come home, James blames Sophie for everything she has done to Henry. Currently, their relationship is getting worse. After work, James finds a letter written by Sophie. The letter was written by Sophie when they first moved into the house, showing how much she loved James. Then he brings some candles into his room to apologize and asks Sophie to make love. But sadly, she turns it down because she isn't really in the mood. At one night, Henry tells Sophie that he's been feeling some emotions lately. He feels like he was programmed to fulfill everything that James and Sophie needs, including sleeping together and making love to them. That night, Sophie dreams that Henry is kissing and making love to her while massaging her. When James goes to work, Sophie intentionally opens her bedroom door and masturbates about her dream last night. Afterwards, she discovers Henry outside her room, asking if he was watching her recently. Later, James sees Sophie and Henry sitting by the pool. He is envious of their recent closeness. He decides to meet up with Julian again, asking him a solution for Henry. Julian tells him that Henry's behavior will be in line with his owner's wishes. With the information, James warns Henry not to interact with his wife again. A dejected Henry deliberately informs Sophie about the warning, causing James and Sophie to argue once more. Consequently, Sophie leaves the house for the next few days. When James asks Henry to bring his razor, Henry comes naked. The encounter between them leads to an awkward exchange, which ends with Henry kissing James. This incident makes James to question his sexuality. The next day in his office, James calls Sophie to mend their relationship. Sophie secretly comes home just to meet Henry. After Henry kisses Sophie while massaging her, Sophie is disturbed when Henry mouths "I love you" in the same manner used by James. When James comes home, she informs him of the encounter just now, causing James enraged. He then bumps into Henry and slaps him, brutally disconnecting his charging station. The next morning, James and Sophie are waiting for Julian to arrive at their home. James leaves for work first because he has waited too long for Julian. That day, Henry wakes up very late. Suddenly, he comes and wonders to Sophie about his charging station being disconnected. He also explains all the events that happened when Sophie left the house. Not long after, Julian comes to the house, but Sophie decides to see James at his office. Oddly enough, Henry looks at his bruises from the mirror, questioning that he is a robot. Julian orders him to go to his bed, but he doesn't want to comply. He also realizes that Julian has been lying to him all this time. Back to Sophie and James, they both regret their actions. James explains that he took his lust on Henry because he was previously rejected by Sophie. They eventually forgive each other's mistakes. At home, they are surprised by Henry naked outside. Henry realizes that all along he is a human. Julian is discovered to be a fraud, and all of his robots are revealed to be real humans whom he had raised. Julian had taken custody of Henry when he was a small child who was rejected by his mother and had suffered serious physical abuse. He had raised all of them to believe they were robots. James and Sophie with 2 FBI agents go to their residence to arrest Julian. Julian shoots them with a shotgun all of a sudden. He points his gun at James and Sophie, but then Henry attacks him, beating him mercilessly with the shotgun. Feeling betrayed by his maker and ashamed for betraying his keepers, Henry commits harakiri with a large knife. James and Sophie cry and comfort Henry as he dies. 5 years later, they are shown with a young son, named Henry. They plan to tell their son about his namesake someday. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.